So yeah, in today's session, we're going to be looking at dynamic routing. And before we look at dynamic routing, in our previous session, we looked at routing, and at the beginning, we looked at static routing. We said static routing was a way for a network administrator to put in networks that are missing and also the routes to those networks. And so basically, what static routing does is look at a particular router, look at all the networks that are not attached to it directly and say that, hey, I think I know about this network and this is how you get to it. So you are explicitly stating all the networks that are missing and then you find a route to them. Now, the challenge is that sometimes it becomes overwhelming because you may have a network which has a very big scope. And so you may have different subnets, and all these subnets that are not on a particular device, you have to explicitly put them on there. And so there may be cases where you may be missing out on some of them, apart from the fact that you may be missing out on some of them. Sometimes situations may change and you may move some of the networks around. And when that happens, you would have to manually go into all the devices that know about that particular network and check whether or not they have the best path to those that particular network. And this is very tedious because then, assuming you have a 1,000 or let's say 500 devices to deal with, static routing will not be an ideal situation for you. And so the solution to static routing is dynamic routing. So let me just give you a scenario of static routing. Let's say you go into a shop and the shop has like a signpost, like a signpost that says maybe ShopRite or something, and it's telling you this is the direction, and maybe ShopRite is a building somewhere. And so the idea of putting a direction and telling the person that, hey, if you want to go to ShopRite, you use the right. And let's say the person is coming from this side. So they will get here, see the signpost, and then they'll move here. Now something happened and ShopRite moved from this direction and they decided to go somewhere else. And so at this point, if they're moving locations, maybe they decided to go here. Now, since they move directions and the signboard has not been changed, a person will still come in here, see the signpost and go there. And at that point, that ShopRite does not exist there. And so it's just like routing where a situation where a particular network has been moved from a particular device. Because you're using static routing, you ought to also go in and say, hey, now these days, if you want to go to ShopRite, this is the direction. And this is why static routing is not really ideal, because with dynamic routing, what will happen is this. When they move, automatically the signboard or the signpost will also say we've moved, and it'll tell you where they are now. You don't have to go in and explicitly put in that network and say this is the direction, because with dynamic routing, it is done automatically. And so that's how it happens with dynamic routing.